Howdy folks, and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. As always, ad-free, as a thank you to everybody who supports me on Patreon. Right, let's get started. We've got a lot to talk about today. It's been a bit of a rough week. It's had its ups, it's had its downs, and the downs were mostly to do with that Armoured Warfare video. Armoured Warfare is a game that I was planning to go back and take another look at anyway. I keep seeing comments popping up in previous videos uploaded over the course of the last month or so. People saying, Jingles, Armoured Warfare's been updated, there's big changes, you need to go back and take another look. So it was something that was always on the to-do list. Anyway, about 2 weeks ago I got contacted by a marketing agency. Nothing unusual about that, by the way. I get contacted by marketing agencies about 2 or 3 times a day. I'm not making that up, by the way. 2 or 3 times a day, my business email address will receive messages from marketing agencies or direct from publishers and developers themselves asking me to do sponsored videos, offering me large sums of money to do sponsored videos on whatever product it is they're touting. Not all of them offer payment. Often it's just free access to the game, here's some Steam codes, have a look at our game, if you want to do a video on it, please feel free, and so on and so on. But of the 2 or 3 offers that I get every day, one of them is somebody offering me money to do a sponsored video. You don't see a sponsored video on this channel every day, do you? Let's count the number of sponsored videos that I've actually done in the past. There's Armoured Warfare. I'm struggling to remember the others. Oh yes, Eve Valkyrie Warzone and Empire Tiger Knight. There's 3 that I can remember. There may be 1, possibly 2 more, but, well, they were so long ago I can't remember. So that gives you some idea of the ratio of offers that I get to offers that I actually accept, and my criteria for accepting the offer has always been the same. First and foremost, it has to be a game that I think you lot might enjoy. Straight away that filters out the vast majority of the offers that I receive every day, because there's not a lot of point in me doing a video of Farm Simulator 5, even assuming I was going to enjoy playing Farm Simulator 5, because you lot want to see videos of stuff getting shot at and blowing up, and there's not a lot of that going on in Farm Simulator 5, for example, so that takes care of a lot of the offers that I get. It's just not the kind of game that I think might interest you, my audience. Secondly, I need to be able to say right at the start of the video, so you lot are left in no doubt as to where it is that I'm coming from, that this video has been paid for. That way, there can be no confusion. You lot know that you're watching a video that has been paid for by the developer or publisher of the game that you're watching. Now, I realise straight away that that's going to set certain people's alarm bells running. Straight away, they're going to say, oh, Jingles has sold out, we can't trust anything he says in this video. But you need to know that that is the case. So you can make your own mind up as to whether or not you think I'm being honest about what it is that I have to say in the video. All of which leads us on to condition number 3, and this is the big one. And this is the reason why I can only remember doing 3 sponsored videos, although it's possible I might have done 1 or 2 more in the course of the last 5 or 6 years, but there have been so few, I honestly can't remember. If I can't honestly say that I like the game, if the game doesn't interest me, if I don't enjoy playing it, I'm not going to accept the offer. I'm not going to do a video on a game that I don't like. And I'm definitely not going to take money from somebody to do a video on a game that I don't like, because they're going to get my honest opinion, and they're not going to like that honest opinion, and I've taken money off them, and, well, that just doesn't seem right. The game doesn't have to be something that I absolutely love and think there's nothing wrong with, but there have to be more things about the game that I like than there are things that I dislike. On balance, I have to be able to say, yes, I like this game, I enjoy playing it, and I think you guys might too. If the game can't satisfy all 3 of those conditions, I don't accept the offer. Simple as that. I may still end up doing a video on the game anyway, if it interests me enough, but I'm not going to take any money for doing it, beyond what I earn through YouTube advertising. Standing by those conditions has cost me a fortune. I have absolutely no idea how much exactly we're talking about, but when you consider that the average offer that I get given is anything between 2,000 to 5,000 euros per video for a sponsored video. And I've turned down a lot of sponsored videos, so yeah. It's been a lot of money. Standing by these principles has cost me an absolute fortune. But I do believe it's the right thing to do, and I think in the long term it's the only thing to do, because you can't put a price on integrity. Well, that's not true. Unfortunately, you absolutely can put a price on integrity. But once word gets around that your opinion is for sale to the highest bidder, you no longer have any integrity. Nobody is going to believe a word that you say, and the offers are going to dry up because your audience doesn't trust you anymore. So, well, a YouTuber or a streamer or a blogger or whatever, they call them influencers, that's what we are to them. An influencer, God, I hate that word, might be able to make a fast buck by selling their opinion in the short term, but eventually their audience is just going to come to completely mistrust them, and they're going to desert them, and then, well, what are you going to do if you no longer have an audience? So it is actually better, at least in my opinion, in the long term, if you stick by your principles and you remain objective and honest. But we've been through this before, guys. This isn't the first time I've had to say this. It isn't the first time I've done a sponsored video. I can remember doing 3, but, I'm getting old and crap. My memory isn't what it used to be. It's possible there may have been 1 or 2 more in the lifetime of my YouTube channel. But that Armoured Warfare video, while it's still got more likes than dislikes, it received the highest ratio of dislikes to likes of any video I've uploaded in quite some time. Now, while there are undoubtedly going to be people who see sponsored video and automatically hit the dislike button before they even watch it, I don't think that was responsible for the negative reaction. I mean, there will be some people who did that, but I don't think that's what pushed so many people's buttons. Unfortunately, I think the issue that certain people had with that video was that they didn't believe I was being sincere. They thought I was lying, that I was only saying good things about Armoured Warfare, because I'd been paid to do the video. And that's really disappointing. After all this time, there are still people out there who don't trust me. So why would people think that? Well, as I said, there are going to be some people who think that just because they see sponsored video right at the start. But I don't believe that of the majority of the people who did register a negative opinion of that video. Most of you were subscribers. I can see the statistics quite clearly on the YouTube analytics page. There were 351 dislikes at the time of recording this episode of Mingles with Jingles. 351 dislikes on the Armoured Warfare Caribbean Crisis video. And 80% of the people disliking that video were subscribers. Now, not everybody who watches a video bothers to hit the like or the dislike button. Some people like the video, but they never hit the like button. Some people dislike the video, but they never hit the dislike button. And I don't have hard and fast figures to back this up, but my gut instinct is that if 351 people are saying, I don't like this video, there are probably 10 times that number who feel the same way, but never go so far as to hitting the dislike button. And 80% of that 3,500 are my subscribers. That's 3,500 subscribers, at a rough guess, who don't believe what I'm saying to them. Wow. I don't really know what to say about that. I like to think that I have a pretty healthy relationship with my subscribers. I've got a lot of you. I tend to get a lot of comments in my videos as well. There's always a healthy and robust exchange of views. We'll not call them arguments. But the comments section of my videos are usually a pretty active place, more so than on a lot of other YouTube channels. And a lot of you have been with me for years. We've been around the block a few times, and the idea that you might suddenly not believe what it is that I'm saying to you is, well, believe it or not, it hurts quite a lot. So why the hell would you think that? Well, I've given it quite some thought. This has actually bothered me a lot since that video went up. So let's try to get to the bottom of this. I think the last time I talked about Armoured Warfare was in an episode of Mingles with Jingles that came out shortly after the news was released that My.com were firing Obsidian Entertainment as the developers of Armoured Warfare and were taking over development of the game themselves, and I was very disappointed to hear that. That hasn't changed, by the way. I would genuinely love to be able to play and review the Armoured Warfare that Obsidian Entertainment were developing, because I think it would have been a very, very interesting game. But the thing you have to remember about Obsidian Entertainment's Armoured Warfare, nobody was playing it. Everybody said they liked it, nobody played it. The servers were dead. Watching Obsidian Entertainment stumble along in charge of Armoured Warfare was like watching your favourite independent film director taking his movie around the film festival circuit. He takes it to Sundance and he wins the grand prize, or whatever prize it is that Sundance gives away. The independent press and all the critics absolutely love it, but it only has a limited release nationwide in 14 theatres for 1 week, and so everybody who went to see it loved it, but hardly anybody bothered going to see it, and so it makes no money, and the cast and crew all end up going back to their day jobs at McDonald's. That was Armoured Warfare, with Obsidian in charge. I tried to tell you how good it was on multiple occasions, but I just couldn't seem to get people to play the bloody thing. Everybody kept saying, "This is great, it's such a refreshing change of pace from World of Tanks and War Thunder." But I didn't see that many of you on the servers. They were like a ghost town. Nobody was playing Obsidian Entertainment's Armoured Warfare. So while I would dearly have loved to have been in the position to be able to do a video on Obsidian Entertainment's Armoured Warfare, because I did like the direction that they were taking the game in, I was clearly in the minority because nobody else was playing it. And I can't do a video on Obsidian Entertainment's Armoured Warfare because that game hasn't existed for quite some time. So you have to understand that regardless of how much I may have wanted to do a video on what might have been, I had to do a video on what was. And I actually quite liked what was. I particularly liked the fact that I could actually get into a match that wasn't co-op in less than a minute. That's not something that I can ever remember happening when Obsidian was in charge. And yes, I realised that they reduced the queue times by cutting the size of the teams in play, but it worked, and it had, unintended or not, other beneficial side effects. I got sick and tired of playing Obsidian Entertainment's Armoured Warfare PvP because it was just a boring camp fest, much more so than it is in World of Tanks or War Thunder. But My.com's PvP with smaller teams is actually quite fluid and dynamic. There's space to get out there and actually drive your tank around without being annihilated by half a team of ridgeline campers on the far end of the map. I actually enjoyed playing My.com's Armoured Warfare PvP in a way that I never really did with Obsidian Entertainment's Armoured Warfare PvP. Now, Obsidian, rightly so, deserved a lot of credit for bringing playable co-op battle to a tank game. My.com haven't fucked around with it. I mean, if anything, with the introduction of the new Special Ops co-op mode, they've improved upon it. You know, despite the fact that these marketing agencies call people like me influencers, I can't actually make anybody go out and buy a game, or download and play a free-to-play game and then put money into it. All I can do is show you the game, tell you what I think about it, explain why I think what it is that I do about that game, show you examples of the sort of thing that I'm talking about in the gameplay video. But at the end of the day, it's your decision. Now, I tried to get people to play Obsidian Entertainment's Armoured Warfare, but, well, look how well that worked out. I suspect a lot of the hostility that people are expressing towards Armoured Warfare with My.com in charge is down to the fact that they really don't like My.com or their parent company, Mail.ru, as not just a developer but also as a publisher. They are, after all, a Russian publisher who had the balls to fire an American development team, and that is not going to sit well with a lot of people. They also didn't do themselves any favours with some of the atrocious blunders that they've committed while marketing and promoting the game, particularly with regards to some of the specials that they've been running. But I'm not here to review their marketing and publishing strategies. I'm here to review their game, and the game is what I reviewed, and I like the game. I realise I've given Electronic Arts and Activision substantial amounts of stick in the past in episodes of Mingles with Jingles for the way they market and publish their games, and particularly monetize them. I may not have been quite so critical. I mean, I would still have been critical, but I might not have completely savaged them if the games that they were marketing, publishing and monetizing, Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Call of Duty World at War didn't also happen to be complete and utter dogshit as games, but they are. And I honestly do not believe that Armoured Warfare is. I think it's a good game. That's what I said. I stand by it. I explain why I think it's a good game. And if there are still people out there, particularly subscribers, who, after all these years, still don't trust me when I'm telling them what I honestly think about a game that I'm reviewing, I strongly suggest you hit that unsubscribe button, because this relationship is quite clearly going nowhere. And now for something completely different. I received a very interesting email the other day, which I'm going to share with you in this episode of Mingles with Jingles, and it reads thus. Hi Jingles, this is Africa Core from the World of Tanks Asia server. I can't report this issue on the forum, and the Wargaming support staff conveniently ignored the complaint that I raised and closed the ticket with zero action. I'm writing this mail to you so that maybe you can bring this issue to light and hopefully make Wargaming take the matter seriously and take action. Well, I don't know if I can make Wargaming do anything about the subject that he raises in this email, but I can definitely bring it to the attention of a wider audience. Africa Core has the habit of going through the statistics of players who either play extremely well or extremely badly in a game. He puts the extremely bad ones in his personal in-game blacklist as a personal sort of shit player filter. On the 28th of December 2017, so less than 3 weeks ago, he stumbled across an account on the Asia server which had a whopping 69,872 battles played on it. Now he thought this person must be very, very dedicated, until he saw that the account creation date was the 24th of May 2016. Now, he plays a lot of World of Tanks, and he has 19,000 battles on an account that's 5 years old, so Africa Core did the maths on this account. As it came out on the 28th of December, this account was 584 days old, which gives an average of 119.64 battles per day, so we'll round that up to 120 battles played per day. That's 5 matches played per hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for the last 584 days. So this clearly indicates that the account is either shared, which is against the World of Tanks terms of service, or is running a bot to finish the grinds, which, needless to say, is also clearly against the World of Tanks terms of service. So that's when he went and checked the vehicles listed in the account and their stats, and this is what he observed. Most games were played on Tier 8 premium tanks for the credits, averaging about 4,000 matches per Tier 8 premium tank, and this account had a lot of Tier 8 premium tanks. The win rate on the premium tanks was between 39 and 42%. Now that indicates botting. Sure, there are players who are that bad, but we're probably looking, taking into account the number of games played and the average win rate, you're almost certainly looking at somebody who's running a bot program to play those Tier 8 premium tanks for him. The Tier 10 tanks on the account had minimal matches, 50 to 200 games per Tier 10 tank on the account, and the win rate on those ranged between 48 to 53%. Now that's more like player behaviour. Now, when you take these figures into account, you have fairly incontrovertible evidence that we've got somebody here who's running a botting program to play game after game after game in Tier 8 premium tanks in order to accumulate the experience and credits required to unlock Tier 10 tanks, which somebody is actually playing. Needless to say, although I'm going to say it anyway, this is the kind of activity that gets your account banned. So, Africa Core reported the issue to the support team on the Asia server, and they gave him the reply that they will take action, but they can't communicate to him what action they were going to take because of privacy. And, you know, that's the way it is. That's exactly the kind of answer you would expect. What he didn't expect was what happened next. He saw the same player in his team again. Remember, if he comes across a player who plays exceptionally badly, he adds them to his blacklist. And if you have players on your blacklist and you end up in a game with them, It's indicated in the team list, and he recognised the same account. This was on the 13th of January. So 16 days after he saw this account for the first time, and 2 weeks after he'd reported it for botting, it's now played 73,496 battles. That's 3,624 more games since the first time he saw the account. Over 16 days. That's 226.5 games per day. It's actually playing more since it was reported than before. That's 9.43 battles per hour. I can't recall ever seeing more clear evidence that somebody is cheating. It's just not physically possible for one person to play 73,000 games of World of Tanks in a year and a half. And if it's not one person, that's account sharing. That's also against the World of Tanks terms of service. So either way, somebody needs to have their account banned. Africa Corps doesn't know what to do. He can't raise the matter on the World of Tanks forums because that's naming and shaming, and he's the one who'll get punished for that, not the person that he's trying to expose. He tried going down the legitimate route and reporting the account to the Wargaming customer support team, and they've done nothing. So he brought it to my attention, and now I'm bringing it to yours. Why is it, do you suppose, that Wargaming are taking no action against this account? Because they do ban accounts for botting and for running illegal mods. They don't do it very often, and they make a big song and dance about it whenever they do. They are quite happy to publish lists of players whose accounts have been banned. Is it perhaps because they have such a backlog of cases to investigate that it takes a long time for them to process complaints like this? It's possible. I don't know. It could also be possible. How can I put this? We did mention that this account has a lot of Tier 8 premium tanks. He sounds like a very good customer. He or she sounds like somebody who spent a lot of money on World of Tanks and is potentially going to continue to spend a lot of money on World of Tanks. There's certainly no indication that the account is slowing down. It's played 226 games per day since being reported. Of course, this bot program is playing terribly, and so it's ruining the match every time it gets into a game for everybody else on its team. And this goes back to the subject that I raised in the beginning of this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. Taking the fast buck for short-term gain at the cost of long-term abusing your audience. If I was going to sell my opinion to the highest bidder in order to take a short-term profit at the cost of alienating my audience in the long term, that's not a winning strategy. And it's the same for wargaming. Taking the easy fast buck might work out in the short term. Allowing players like this to continue running their accounts because they've put a lot of money into the game might mean that in the short term you've got one player who may continue to put money into the game. But 226 times a day, the player running this account, or to be more accurate, the bot program running the account for them, is playing incredibly badly and is directly contributing towards a shitty game experience and horrible defeats for the other 14 players unlucky enough to find themselves on the same team. Is it really worth it? How much do you value the experience of the one player with a lot of Tier 8 premiums running a bot program over the experience of the 14 other people unlucky enough to end up on the same team? Which customer does Wargaming Asia value more? Until this account gets banned, I think it's pretty obvious what the answer is. Your opinions, as always, very welcome in the comments. Here's another email that I received this week, which put a smile on my face for a couple of reasons. This is from Aidan Kennard. Good morning, Jingles. While on a quick break from the salt mines, excuse me, didn't realise I gave people time off. I thought I'd ask for your experience on something. For the past year and a half, I've been attempting to join the Royal Air Force. The Air Force? Didn't you want to join the military? I mean, seriously, the Air Force and you came to me? Oh well, fair enough. Originally I applied for pilot, but I didn't make the cut, so I picked another trade and pressed on. To cut a long story short, a little over a year after sending the application off, I went to OASC to take the relevant tests in order to become an officer. However, my nerves knocked my confidence on the day, and I was told I wasn't quite ready, but that I was more than welcome to apply for intelligence analysis as an airman, since there was an intake starting soon. This was in November last year, and I'm still waiting to hear if I've been accepted. Should I not be accepted, I'll be applying again for Royal Air Force Police. Oh my god, it gets worse. As this was the role I wanted to join as an officer after being unable to join as a pilot. The long and short is I was wondering what your experience of joining the Navy was like, and the process of going through the various hoops you have to jump through in order to be considered acceptable for the armed forces. My apologies for the long email. I'd like to personally thank you for uploading videos on a regular basis, as throughout this process I could always rely on a Jingles video to help me forget my troubles for a little while. Kind regards, Aidan Kennard. Right, where do I start? First of all, Air Force. Really? Okay, well, I suppose somebody has to. And Royal Air Force Police. Okay, well, we'll leave your dubious taste in career choices aside for the moment. The first thing you need to know: never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, believe anything you're told by an armed forces recruiter. I'm not saying they're bad people, but they have quotas to fill, and they're not too fussy about how they fill them. What rang alarm bells for me straight away was after you said that, okay, well, you didn't pass the officer's entrance exam first time around, but you were told that you were welcome to come back and have another go, and the recruiter said to you, you should apply for intelligence analysis as an airman, as an enlisted other rank, since there was an intake starting soon. Straight away that told me that that recruiter has a quota to fill for intelligence analysis airmen, and from that point on, anything that they say has to be treated as suspect. Now for the good news. My very last job before retiring from the Royal Navy was at the Admiralty Interview Board, and this performs exactly the same function for the Royal Navy and the Royal Marines as the Officer and Aircrew Selection Centre, which you attended, does for the Royal Air Force. Now, while you were unsuccessful on your first attempt at the OASC, what they said to you was that you weren't quite ready, but you were welcome to come back in the future and have another attempt. Now, I can tell you that means that they think you have a good chance of passing if you come back in the future with a bit more life experience under your belt and a little bit more preparation. They think that you can do it. So do not listen. Do not listen to a recruiter who has a quota to fill, who insists that your best chance of getting into the Royal Air Force is to sign up for a specialisation that they just so happen to have an intake for. Stick to your guns, go back to the OASC and have another go. Don't blow your chance of becoming a Royal Air Force officer, even if, it's Royal Air Force Police Officer and barely qualifies as an officer in the first place. Stick to your guns. Go back to the Officer and Aircrew Selection Centre and have another try. Now, if you fail on your second attempt, then by all means explore other options. But take that second chance, because somebody there clearly thought that you could do it. Anyway, I wanted to finish off this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles by telling you a story. It's not the kind of story that I normally tell, however. This story is absolutely true. Most of the stories that I tell you are absolutely true, but this story is probably going to horrify you. Hands up, anybody who's ever heard of Klebsiella planticola, or just K. planticola for short. I've no doubt that a few of you are going, oh no, that story. Yeah, that story. I suspect, however, that the overwhelming majority of people listening to this video have no idea what I'm talking about. Well, stand by to be educated. K. planticola is a bacterium. It's an enterobacterium. This is a kind of bacteria that traditionally lives inside the guts of mammals, but this particular strain of bacterium is found on the roots of plants that have roots in soil. In fact, the root systems of every plant that has ever been tested for the presence of K. planticola has come up positive, so it's as close to a universal plant bacteria as you can find. What this bacteria does in the wild is it aids in the decomposition of dead plant matter, and it's very, very good and very aggressive at it. plants die and they rot in part because of the presence of K. planticola on their roots. So the fact that this stuff is everywhere and that it's very, very aggressive in what it does is what made K. planticola so interesting for a European biotech firm in the 1990s. You see, when a farmer has a load of dead plant matter that they need to get rid of, they typically burn it off. The problem here is that, well, it's very wasteful, it pollutes the air and it can damage the lungs of the farmers doing the burning. On the other hand, if you just leave plants to die and rot, you end up with a load of useless sludge that isn't particularly useful for anything, and it stinks. And then you have to get rid of the sludge. But what if you could turn that sludge into something that was actually useful? You wouldn't want to burn it away then. What if you could ferment it, turn it into alcohol, fuel, fertilizer, or even all three? And that's exactly what these bioengineers tried to do by splicing an alcohol-producing bacteria into K. planticola. Now, if it worked, all the farmer would need to do would be to take his decaying plant matter, stick it in a bucket, and come back after a week. Instead of a bucket of sludge, you'd have a bucket of alcohol. Alcohol that could be distilled into fuel for your car, that could be used to cook with. Hell, you could just drink it. And at the bottom of the bucket would be a layer of sludge. But this sludge would be rich in nitrates, rich in phosphorus. It would be a perfect fertilizer. There would be absolutely zero waste involved. Everything could be recycled. It would all be useful. And they did it. It worked exactly as advertised. The USA's Environmental Protection Agency had thoroughly tested this bacteria and concluded that it posed no harm to the environment. All of the licenses had been issued. All that they were waiting for was marketing and shipping. And then a researcher at the University of Oregon decided to do a little testing of their own. You see, when the EPA tests something, it does it in a sterile environment. That way, no outside factors can influence the results of the test. But the thing about this bacteria is that in the real world, it's going to be on the roots of plants that are in dirt. And the thing about dirt, well, it's dirty. That's why we call it dirt. It's about as far from sterile as you can get. So this University of Oregon professor tested K. planticola under laboratory conditions, but did so in regular soil that they just dug up from the garden. And here's the thing about the genetically modified K. planticola. It did exactly as advertised, but it didn't wait for the plant to die before it started attacking the root system. It was poison. It took a week for K. planticola to kill every plant it came into contact with from alcohol poisoning. And remember, the reason why they wanted to mess around with K. planticola in the first place was that it was very aggressive and it was everywhere. And if there's two things you don't want a poison to be, it's aggressive and everywhere. And remember, this thing had been tested, approved, the license had been issued, and all they were waiting for was marketing and shipping. If this thing had ever been released from the laboratory, it has been estimated that it would have killed every plant on Earth within 3 to 5 months. We need those to live, don't we? This was in 1992. That's how close we came to Armageddon, because the EPA didn't think it was a good idea to test the bacteria under real-world conditions. Sleep tight, folks. And on that bombshell, that's it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.